The San Francisco 49ers and the Pittsburgh Steelers are set to face off in about a week. And while these teams have a lot of similarities, there's one glaring difference between them currently. One of them in the Pittsburgh Steelers have their star rusher in TJ Watt, while the other one in Nick Bosa is still missing from the 49ers practice field. To begin examining the importance of Nick Bosa and his presence on the 49ers, we need to examine what happened when Nick Bosa was sidelined when injuries occurred in 2020 and in 2021. In 2020, Nick Bosa suffered an ACL injury, where in 2021, he suffered a groin injury. And during the period he missed, the Niners only went 5-10. So while many people highlight the win stat for players like quarterbacks, I think dominant players like Nick Bosa also need to highlight it, because he really changes the way a game's played. Because rather than only putting, let's say, a tackle or a tight end on an edge rusher, you really need to think about double teaming him and what Nick Bosa does to disrupt your game plan. Because if you don't account for him, it's going to be a long day for your quarterback or even running back. He's dominant both in the run game and pass game. To highlight Nick Bosa's dominance, this is what Pro Football Focus had to say about Bosa. Bosa won the NFL Defensive Player of the Year award in 2022, as he led the league in pressures with 90, finished third in pass rush win percentage of 21%, and was stout versus the run, 82.6 run defense grade, while missing 0 tackles as a run defender. It's also worth noting for Nick Bosa, it's not like his dominance is something new, but rather, since he's entered the league and been on the field, he's been dominant. In 2019, he won the Defensive Rookie of the Year and had 9 sacks. And in 2020, he did sustain that ACL injury, which we'll get back to. But in 2021, he came back nicely, leading the league in tackles for loss with 21 and 15.5 sacks. In 2022, we saw his breakout year with 18.5 sacks and 19 tackles for loss. Nick Bosa's production in the NFL is impressive, but maybe what's more impressive is his athletic attributes. He comes in at 6'4", weighing 265 pounds about, and has an arm length of 33 inches. But this is where things get really insane. It's his combine results. He ran his 40-yard dash in 4.79 seconds, but he ran his 10-yard split in 1.55 seconds. That's the same as Christian McCaffrey, despite being a whole lot heavier. Try to block a guy like that as a tackle. It's a nightmare. But even if your tackle does have the ability to stop his speed rushes, he has the ability to also just bull rush right through you, as he put up a bench press of 29 reps during the combine, but he probably has gotten stronger. But that's not the only thing that I think Nick Bosa really excels at. It's his hand placement, and Drake Jackson and a ton of defensive ends around the league speak about this. Drake Jackson highlights this by saying, when he talks to Nick Bosa, it's like having all the answers to the test. NFL dominance isn't something new for the Bosas though, as John Bosa, Nick Bosa's father, played in the NFL, and Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa's brother, plays for the LA Chargers. Bosa, with the solid genetics and really a knowledge base to rely on, took no time to establish his dominance in Florida, where he attended St. Thomas Aquinas in high school. He was a 4-year starter, a multi-year first-team All-State player, and a 5-star recruit coming out. He was widely considered one of the best recruits in his class. Bosa, after a dominating high school career, decided to commit to Ohio State University and took no time to make an immediate impact. He played from 2016 all the way to 2018. During this time, Bosa wreaked havoc, having a total of 17.5 sacks and 29 tackles for loss. With Bosa's college career wrapped up and the 2019 NFL draft approaching, many scouts saw Bosa as one of the best, if not the best, draft prospect in the entire class. However, there was one main thing that many scouts pointed to as a question mark, and that was Bosa's core injury during his final season of his college days. And as I mentioned earlier, Nick Bosa has sustained another major injury in the pros with his ACL injury. And while he has bounced back, that is something to keep an eye out for now and going forward in his career. And this really is bringing me back to the question why the 49ers still haven't gotten this deal done despite Nick Bosa displaying a high level of dominance throughout his high school, college, and pro days. The first thing that I briefly want to touch on before diving a little bit more deeply into these numbers is that Nick Bosa has had his fair share of injuries. So that is something that complicates a contract talk, especially if Nick Bosa is looking for a fully guaranteed contract. So while injuries are a key talking point in contract negotiations in professional sports, I think there's something in Nick Bosa's contract talks making it a little bit more complicated. And that's the Aaron Donald contract, because it's a lot more complicated than when it first seems, such as how the Niners are going to compensate Nick Bosa for Aaron Donald's retirement bonus he gets for being on the team, and things like that. So those are really the questions that need to be ironed out. But if these contract negotiations do get ironed out, can the Niners really expect any production out of Nick Bosa come week 1? I have to say I would expect Nick Bosa to be a productive player. I know he hasn't stepped on the field in a while, but he has had his own training, and Nick Bosa is a monster during the offseason and continually improves. While he may not be in perfect football shape yet, I do think a 90% Nick Bosa is one of the most dominant players across the entire league. Nick Bosa's dominance is a blessing and a curse, because now without Nick Bosa seemingly week 1 possibly, the question becomes who's going to produce without him there. Sure, they have Drake Jackson, who they used a 2nd round pick on last year, but he didn't produce a ton his rookie year. And while his initial results are encouraging this offseason, he hasn't gone out and done it yet. The only real true edge rusher on the Niners who's gone out and produced at a high level was Nick Bosa. So the Niners truly are playing with fire in this contract negotiations. I think the Niners really need to prioritize this and just get this done so they can focus on really winning the Super Bowl, because that has to be the goal with bringing in a guy like Javon Hargrave and making all these additions. The Niners Super Bowl window is now, and they need to chase it. To their credit, I think that the Niners understand the importance of Nick Bosa and the importance of getting this contract done if they are a serious team about competing for the Super Bowl this year. So I do think they're going to get this worked out. I'm just questioning how much of an impact Nick Bosa will make. I know he's great in training in the offseason. I just want to see how good he's going to be once he comes on the field, how long it's going to take him to acclimatize, or if he doesn't need any time to acclimatize and just goes out there and balls out. Either way, with or without Nick Bosa, the season is drawing closer, and on the 10th, we'll see how the Niners defense holds up against a new seemingly high-powered Pittsburgh offense. I do think the Niners will do good both on the offense and defensive side of the ball, but will they win? I want to hear your predictions down below. It would also mean a ton to me if you liked and subscribed. And as always, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.